This stock is about to drop 200 bucks, guys, in the next 72 hours. Yes, that's right. Another crazy prediction on actually one of my all-time favorites for trading weekly options. Just as a quick reminder, this channel is for traders, stock traders, options traders, and as a disclaimer, I don't buy stock options right before earnings, but I do like to go in and analyze the charts and to see what type of move the charts are pointing to. So please do not go and buy these options ahead of earnings. As a matter of fact, please look at some of my other videos on this channel, specifically walking you through why this may not be a good strategy. However, you can significantly increase your return by trying to understand exactly what type of move could be taking place and using a strategy the day after the company is actually announcing earnings. So here it is. Why such a great stock like Priceline about to drop 200 bucks? Well, here's what we've got. First, we're going to take a look at the daily chart, then we're going to take a look at weekly, and then I'm going to give a couple other reasons why I think this quarter is going to turn out the way I think it will. So here's what we've got. Some time ago, back in March, BKNG had a really bullish report and it gapped up higher. I think that gap will be closed after it reports earnings this evening after 4 p.m. Multiple efforts for the stock to actually break out of this range between 2,000 and 2,200. But every time we're seeing there's just not enough strength in the stock to actually get there. Initially, the relative strength was close to 90 when it made that move all the way from 1800s all the way to 2,200. But since then, the relative strength, every time it tries to take this level out, is actually diminishing. So we got a reducing strength in the stock as it tries to break out higher. That is not a bullish thing. That's actually a bearish thing. If you've taken my chart course, a lot of times I talk about the phenomena that I discovered, and I call it the black candle phenomena. On this particular chart, I can identify two black candles. There's actually more, but let's just talk about these two right here that have a bearish type of formation. You see this tiny little black candle. What happens after that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 days consecutively lower. Another black candle right here. You see what happens? 1, 2, 3 days, 4 days consecutively lower. As you can see, it just made another one of those black candle formations, and I'm expecting this stock to consecutively drop 2 or 3 days in a row. Now this time, I'm expecting a much larger drop because I believe it's way overdue to close this gap right here. Some of the other things besides the black candles, which are incredibly bearish to me, we also had another bearish situation here where it did gap lower. That is definitely a bearish thing as well. Now, what we have an accumulation distribution. As the stock tries to keep going higher right here and break above 2,100, what really these black candles are telling us that institutional investors are coming in and they're locking in gains, they're locking in profits at these levels above 2,100. So that's what this action by black candles actually represents. And that happens to coincide with the accumulation distribution line, which is in the diminishing trend. In other words, every time the stock gets above 2,100 or close to it, we're seeing people are actually distributing the stock. They're selling their shares. Okay, let's take a look at the weekly chart. And we're seeing the confirmation. If you watch some of my videos, I think it's very useful not just to look at, maybe your daily chart, even if you are a day trader, right? It's important to kind of go back, take a look at the 5-day, 10-day, and longer time frames. And if all of them are sort of pointing out to the same outcome, then it makes sense to take the trade, right? So here's what we've got here, okay? We've got diminishing RSI confirmed, right? As you can see right here, when the stock was trading at 2,000, RSI was all the way here. The stock tries to go higher. The RSI is actually lower than it was here, so that's a downward trend. It is confirmed later multiple times as the stock tries to go higher. Now, we're also observing, even though these are not black candles on this weekly chart, we're also observing this type formation where you have a tail sticking out, and then sort of like a failed rocket launch is what I call it. So it goes to the moon and then it comes back to Earth the same day. We have a number of those candles, which actually to me indicate a bearish confirmation of the fact that every time the stock gets here, banks are coming in and they're locking in their profits. We actually do have a confirmation on the MACD that is a bearish crossover when the black line crosses the orange line right here. Now, accumulation distribution does not show the signs that people are really taking the profits in any big sort of way. So I think, in my view, this actually represents an opportunity for a huge sell-off. And so I think the accumulation distribution is going to do this. That's why I painted this little dots right here. I think it's going to go lower, and clearly it's got plenty of room to actually go lower because not that many people have sold the stock. Another bearish sign I see is as the stock tries to go higher above the 2100, 2200, every time it goes there, we're actually having lesser volume, which we weren't able to see on the daily chart as clearly as here. So we have, especially on the days or on the runs where the stock has gone consecutively higher, we have a lower buying volume in relation to the sell volume, which is represented by this red bar. So more people are selling rather than people are buying, and they're using this level to sell the stock. So where could this thing fall? Let's go back to this chart, and I think it has an ability to fall all the way to $1,910, possibly all the way to $1,875. And so that's where the gap, that's where the stock actually broke out of in March, and I think it's going to close that gap and end up right around that area somewhere. Now, some of the other reasons that make me bearish on such a good stock is this. Okay, so price target 1875, 1910. Here's some of the key points I wanted to bring up. The dollar has been in a very, very strong uptrend, and stronger dollar is not good for Priceline when it reports earnings. As you probably know, most of the Priceline revenue derives from overseas, so it has to convert its earnings into dollars, and it clearly hurts the earnings report. Okay, as far as the travel sector overall, and this is what we've got going on in the world right now, is all the travel and activities are very likely to grow at a slower pace, and some of the key reasons for that is the fact that European economy is slowing, Asian economy is slowing, and so those are very important markets for Priceline. So if the economies are slow and less people are going to be traveling, it's definitely going to hurt the demand. Plus the strong dollar, we just don't have a very, very positive combination going on here for Priceline. Number 4 point is majority of the travel stocks are already experiencing headwinds. When Trip recently announced earnings, you clearly saw the stock took a nosedive. Carnival Cruise, another measurement of how the travel industry is doing, has been very bearish as well. The only stock that actually managed to go higher from the travel sector recently has been Expedia, which I think is more of an exception to the rule. And actually, if we go back just for a brief moment to show you what happened when Expedia went higher, the investors were actually taking profits. If you see this black candle right here, that coincided. This very high point was 21.37 for Priceline. That was the day Expedia announced earnings and Priceline rocketed higher. After that, it sold off in a major way. Okay, and so typically you wouldn't see such a huge reaction, right? Typically on positive Expedia earnings, Priceline will go higher. Yeah, it's going to make a slightly lower pullback after that, but nothing to this extent right here. Okay, so maybe there were some things in the earnings report of Expedia that they didn't think was going to favor Priceline as much as it typically would. So the investors are being extremely cautious here. There's multiple reasons why this quarter may not be as promising as some of the other quarters that Priceline reported in the past. And so generally speaking, regardless of how good this quarter that it's going to report today going to look, I think what the investors are going to be looking for is the guidance. In other words, what is Priceline management is going to have to say about the future, the next quarter, the next year. What is the outlook going to be? And because of some of these factors, Europe slowing, Asia slowing, stronger dollar, and so on, I don't think the projections for the future are going to be very optimistic. And generally speaking, Priceline management is very conservative on estimating their guidance. And so a lot of times it's being ignored by the investors. In other words, Priceline will report great earnings and poor guidance. And every time it reports poor guidance, it has a tendency of beating its own estimates later. And it typically gives the stock the opportunity to rally and go higher on such a strategy. However, I don't think this is going to be the case this time because knowing how conservative the management is going to be, I definitely think they will be taking all of these things into consideration right here. And so I think a $200 drop actually may be a bit of a conservative estimate. Maybe we could see it drop by as much as $250 in the next 72 hours. So today is Wednesday, August the 8th. So what I am saying, by Friday, August the 10th, okay, or by the following Monday, we could see price line by as much as $250 lower from here. If you are trying to learn the charts, if you are trying to understand how to trade options, simply click some of the links below. Actually, you can schedule a 20-minute free coaching consultation and ask some of the questions that you may have on your mind right now. So take advantage of that. A lot of times, all these 20-minute spots, they get booked. So very, very fast. So take advantage, take action now, get your questions answered, and make this year your most profitable trading year ever.